Hello, I'm Donald Bayne, founder of BayneBox.com, and now we have Bartlett Collections with us as well. I'd like to welcome you here. I have a few projects here on the bench. We're putting together some instructional videos for you to help you enjoy the experience to the best of your ability. These projects can be done by mom and dad working with a child, just individually by yourself. Many different levels and fun things that you can do. And I'm here to hopefully make your day and your kit and your time a success for you and for your family so that you can share this with others and enjoy it for some time to come. Hello, you're now the proud owner of a Bayne box carry-all. Developed from the original, this was built in about 1959 by my father. You may have read that on the website. There's a little article on the website showing pictures of the original magazine where this came from. And this is our version of it, which you can have in a short period of time. First thing you do when you get your kit is you do want to make sure you have all your pieces. You should have 4 dowels. 2 of one length and 2 slightly shorter. You'll have 2 end panels, 2 center dividers, which we'll be gluing together. We'll show you that shortly. 2 sides and a bottom. In most cases, you'll want to go through and pick out the best side and have that as being the surface that's most exposed. In some cases, there may be small patches that are inconspicuous. We made an attempt to remove most all of those unless they're very inconspicuous. In some cases, where you're gluing surfaces together, you'll put those 2 sides together, leaving the pretty side out. To start your kit, you would go through this and you can sand your pieces at this point and get them all cleaned up and nice. Go through a dry fit to make sure they're going together the way you want. But there are a few areas that I'm going to show you that are important and that maybe the written text that you receive with the kit doesn't quite show it as easy as I can show it to you. So let's start with the gate, with the lid. If you look at this kit, we'll see we're missing the lid. So hopefully you'll notice that, and here I've found my 2 lids. And we will get ready to put these together. Now, there's a little bit of gluing involved in a couple small areas, and that's in the lids. Your longest dowels become the hinge pivots for the lid. So you're going to set the dowel up. The lid, I don't know if you can see it in the video, but you'll see it in your actual kit. We have a small cove cut on the bottom of the edge, which will match the dowel, giving us a nice glue surface. What I recommend you do is take some painter's tape and some glue. Painter's tape, glue, and sandpaper, and whatever finishing supplies you prefer is about all you need for this kit. I'm going to pre-cut my painter's tape and set it on the edge of my bench real quick. By the way, I'm going to keep this as minimalist as possible. So if you're working on your dining room table, put some paper down or a cloth that you can glue on. When you do your lids, it appears that they're both the same, but you're going to pick a left and a right so that you can get the prettiest surfaces that you want to be on top. So keep that in mind as you put your kit together. Even though they appear to be the same, prettiest sides up, that's the most exposed. So you want to lay them out that way as you get ready to go. This is an example of a boat patch. We've taken that out of your kit. You should not see those unless it's on the bottom or the inside of your divider. Most of those things should come out in waste. I'm going to put a very minimal line of glue, which we've included in your kit. This is Type Bond 2. It's nice because it is not affected by humidity once it's set up. Try to stay minimal with your glue. Make sure you pick up your right dowel. I've already lost track, so we'll double check. Yes, I have the right dowel. Sometimes dowels have a little bit of a bow to them. I tend to put the bow downward. Now this is mentioned in your directions, but you want to keep your overhang at each end of your lid the same. And those are the pins that become your hinge. With your painter's tape, notice I'm just resting it on the table, tape one side and then give the tape a slight pull and press it to the other side. This is going to act as your clamp until the glue sets up. I'm going to recommend you only let it sit here for about 15 minutes. Normally this glue takes about a half of an hour to cure. I'm going to have you take the tape off in a few minutes and scrub any excess glue squeeze out. So that's one other nice thing to have ready to go is a bucket, water, and a rag. There's two trains of thought. This is in your helpful hints in the instructions. Some people say scrape your glue, some people say wash your glue. I'm a washer, I'm a scrubber in reality. I don't want to leave any glue off on my surface to affect my stain. This would be very hard to sand or chip off because of the radius of the dowel and the thickness of the plywood not being perfectly the same. You can get some flattening of your dowel, which you don't want. You'll do this to both lids. Go on and prep the rest of your pieces while the lids are setting up using sandpaper. These I prepped earlier. So after you have them set up, within 15 minutes, you're going to take the tape off. Kind of keep an eye out on the glue. And by the way, if you're working with glue and you haven't done it a lot, it's not uncommon to get fingerprints of glue on your work surface and on your project, and you'll want to be careful of that. I said sand before you start. Really anything where you're involving glue, you don't want to sand it until you're done playing with your glue, so that if you do happen to get glue on it and it dries, the secondary thing to do will be then to sand all your glue off. If you're not sure if there's glue there, when you go to stain it, you'll find out. If that happens, I would say sand immediately or let it thoroughly dry, one of the two. I typically wet sand, meaning using my staining material and sand right through and blend my stain right back into it, and you can usually get a pretty successful job. So we have our lids ready to go. The other thing has to be glued together is our two dividers. So I'm going to find the two sides that are least pretty. Oh, I got this knot here. Let's put that on the inside. Get a few marks here, but that's just handling marks. These two pieces create your center divider. We'll be gluing those lightly and clamping them together. You could pick up some very inexpensive spring clamps. These came from our local Ollie's. You can pick them up at Harbor Freight for just a couple dollars for 6. I just prepped this one earlier so we'll be able to jump right into it. What we want to do here is just put a little bit of glue. You don't need a lot. This is one item that there's no need to get tons of squeeze out on it. You just need a minor amount of glue. I'm going to put just a little bit around the handle, just enough to get a bite. I'm going to stand on a flat surface. I'm going to stand the two pieces up. Just give them a little back and forth rub. I'm going to place a dowel through the holes to help me line it up. Then I'm going to take my little spring clamps. You could probably even get away with clothespins. I'm going to use these two almost like a stand. You don't have to. We're just looking for some reasonable amount of glue in there. Now to lock my handle together tight, again I'm going to go to the painter's tape, and the trick here is I'm taping one side and pressing the tape into it and then pulling it to the other side and wrapping the tape around the handle. I'm going to leave a little flag sticking up so I can take it off easy. Now if you had tons of spring clamps, you could spring clamp that as well. I just thought I'd show you some ways to do it if you don't have all those things. Going to make sure it's lined up the way we want it so we have minimal sanding later. My inside edges are lined up, my outside edges are lined up. It feels good. I'm going to set that aside. As those pieces are set aside, now you have time to go ahead and prep all your other work. You have sandpaper included in your kit. I like to 3-fold my sandpaper, try to get it even. It kind of locks itself together when you do this. And then you can always unfold and refold to use the whole piece of paper. Sand your surfaces, go with the grain. So you'll sand your surface. Key here is the better the sand job, the better the finish, the nicer your project. You can put more time into the sanding of your project than all the rest of this together. But straight sand, you can also sand with a block if you like. It doesn't hurt to use your thumb or a finger and just slightly sand your edges. These were deburred and sanded a bit in the shop with machine, but never hand sanded. So you'll go through, get that to the level you want it. Give a light easing. When you're doing easing of the edge, be careful not to scratch against the grain. You want it, if you have to, just go with the grain and get your edge eased a little bit. Do that till you get the desired effect that you want, and that's an ideal to go through every piece. We're going to dry fit this now. We're not going to get into the finishing. I'll leave that for another day or for you to do on your own. What we would like to do now is put this piece together. You got all these little pieces here. We're going to start with our bottom. We can set our lids aside for the moment. We are going to take one end. These are our two sides. You might have to play with it. You'll notice that one side is longer, the one return beyond the tab is longer than the other return. If you put it together, you'll find out real quick that if you put it upside down, your hole will be covered for your hinge. So you'll just simply flip it over. No glue involved, so no harm. You take it in and take it out until you get what you want. Put the piece together. And now we need our center divider. This is the one I did earlier. Let's take the tape off so it looks a little prettier. You would have taken the tape off, sanded it, done your finishing. So now we're going to take this, sorry for the noise, we got people working in the shop, building a couple other kits, getting ready for the next parts. Okay, now comes the shorter dowel. So we take the short dowel and we're going to put it through the hole with the tabs and work it through the center hole. If you have to, you can give it a gentle tap. You're starting to fight angles now. Gentle tap with a hammer. And what we're doing is we're springing this down. It's going to start to spring. When it gets close, I'm going to put my piece back together. And if you notice, I'll have to spring it down to get it into the other hole. It's starting to slip through now without too much trouble. I'm just going to tap it a little bit more. Line it up with the hole. Started the process, and now I'm just sliding it in with my fingers. I don't want to bump my board. Now it's easier to do one side. Now I'm going to drop the bottom in. And now when we do the other side, I'm turning on end so the gravity can help us a little, because I'm going to have to take our lid and drop it in to the hole. Take the other lid and drop it in its hinge hole. And now this is a little bit trickier because now we have to line up all these pieces, alternate our lid, put the other end on. So I'm just going to start and just get the tab started. The other stuff will tend to float around there for a bit. Once you get your middle started, get your other end started, slight angle. Once you've got these four pieces starting to protrude through, line up your little dowel pins for your door lid, close them, take your other dowel, push it through your cabinet. You'll find when you have some finish on here, this might be a little slicker, you might find it slides a little easier. Now we have a working box. All we need is some finish, and we're good to go. Take your time with your finish. get the sanding the way you want it, put a nice finish on it. While they're loose pieces, it's much easier to finish on flat pieces. Assemble your box, fill it, and you're good to go. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you have fun with it. Store the items you need. We used to use it for sewing equipment. As you see on the website, can be used for many items. Happy building!